Any views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on the Rejuvenating Health podcast are solely those of the speakers and are intended as such. Please consult your trusted healthcare practitioner for medical advice. Let's go, girls.
All right, ladies, welcome back to the Rejuvenating Health podcast. I am Lakin, your mindset coach, and as always, I'm joined by Lindsay, our women's health nurse practitioner. And today we are getting in it. We are talking directly to the woman who feels hesitant about the mindset portion of the program.
Yeah, so this is probably for like our... I mean, you should listen to this if you're not a client, but if you are a client, you should really listen to this.
Yeah, it'll be beneficial for both, but it's like this is going into a lot of some of the resistance that we get, and understandably so. And so we're going to address that today. And ideally you feel called forward and not called out, right? So it's like, maybe you saw the intake form that you get sent and you think like, I don't have time for this, or, it's too long, or maybe you feel like you have trouble focusing, or you have ADHD and you feel like it's a personal attack on the way that you process information. Or, we get a lot of, I don't want to dig up the past, which is understandable. I don't even know this person. Why would I want to go deep with them, right? Or they're not therapists, so why do I need to talk to them about my issues? Or I already have a therapist. That's a big one. And some people will feel like it's really woo, like I don't believe in this woo-woo stuff. Or, I'm already really self-motivated. I'm successful. I don't have any issues with my mindset. And that's all fair.
Yeah, and it's all valid and it makes sense. And I'm not like and I are not trying to convince anyone to do any type of like mindset coaching or anything like that. Because like you're not broken. We're not trying to convince you that you are broken or that you secretly have some huge issue that you don't know about. But let's back up just a little bit and say that like if you don't work with us, a huge component of what makes rejuvenating so different is this aspect of what we're going to talk about today. So a lot of people come to us because they want their labs checked. They want maybe a coach, and they have no idea that like such a huge component of our program is this mindset piece. And they're super hesitant to go through with it. But the women that are successful in our program are the ones that dive into this aspect of the program. So I just wanted to back up a little bit and explain like why we're talking about this, because it is a huge part of our program and what makes us different than a lot of programs out there. And women can be super hesitant for the reasons that you said above.
Yeah, and understanding that it is included because most women don't struggle with their health simply because they don't know what to do. It's the same reason why they're coming in. They've said, I've tried everything. It's like they struggle because something keeps pulling them back into the same patterns that were coming up before. So, you know that you need to eat enough protein, that sleep matters, that your stress is affecting you more than likely, but knowing and doing are not the same thing. And mindset coaching is where we can take a look at the gap between what you know and what you consistently do. And we can identify some of that and create some self-awareness around it.
So I wish we had a different name for this than mindset
I
coaching.
know.
So I think it sounds weird. Maybe it sounds woo-woo. I don't know what people think when they hear mindset coaching. I think maybe they think that you're like a motivator, or you're a therapist, or you're going to do affirmations with them, or toxic positivity. So like, what is it, Lakin?
Yeah. So mindset coaching, the way we use it, in rejuvenating health, is essentially like pattern and nervous system work. Like We're looking at beliefs and stories and automatic responses, or language or emotional habits and nervous system patterns that shape how you show up in your life, but specifically how that's being applied to your health journey in this container. So we're going to be looking at things like, why you do what you do or not do, right? And I like to explain this when I'm in my first session with clients of, if we're looking at the difference between what falls into the health coach scope and what falls into the mindset coach scope, right? If we were addressing something that comes up pretty frequently, like emotional eating, right? Your health coach is going to help you to identify tactics and tools to overcome that pattern in the moment when that trigger is presenting itself. And the mindset coach is going to look at where did that pattern originate, what behaviors led to it, what lived experiences led to it, what story you're telling yourself about it, and how can we go back and analyze that to give you a different perspective so that we can choose something different moving forward. So if you start strong and then you self sabotage, or if consistency has been a repeat problem that maybe feels really unavailable to you, or if rest makes you feel really guilty, or if you really struggle with asking for help because vulnerability is an issue, or one imperfect meal will turn into an entire fuck it weekend of like I it's like that all or nothing comes up all the time. Or this one is a really big one, why you tend to put everyone else's needs before your own, and then you're chronically exhausted all the time, but you don't know how to get out of that loop. All of that is mindset. It's not fluff. It is literally the operating system that is functioning beneath your behavior patterns.
Yeah, and from a health side, like this really matters because if we don't address these patterns, the plan that I give you, that one of our nurse practitioners gives you, becomes another thing that you just avoid, that you rebel against, or that you use to criticize yourself against. That it's just like one more thing that I didn't succeed with.
Exactly. Or that you stick with while you're in the container in the program because you have the amount of accountability that
Accountability.
you have. And then once you get on your own again, you revert to those old ways. Because you can have the best protocol in the world, but if your nervous system associates taking care of yourself or self-prioritization or self-care with guilt or threat or selfishness or failure because of previous times that it hasn't worked or that you haven't been able to stick with it, that protocol is going to feel harder than it needs to be. And it's going to be unsustainable for you at some point, which is what has happened most likely in the past. And that's why you're here now.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of like things that clients sometimes notice is that the mindset session might bring up certain topics that don't seem necessarily connected to their health journey at first. So maybe things like childhood dynamics or relationships or marriage or work stress or boundary issues or family roles or grief or perfectionism or old stories. So what's going on there?
Yeah, this happens a lot. People, want to know, why do I have to go into that stuff? Or what does this have to do with what's going on right now? Right. But your health behaviors, along with all of your behaviors, but the way that they're contributing right now and the way they're showing up, did not form in a vacuum. The way that you eat and have your relationship with food, the way that you rest, the way that you move, the way that you recover, set boundaries, ask for help, handle stress, the way that you talk to your body is all shaped by learned behavior patterns. And learned behavior patterns are tied to lived experiences through the nervous system. So, no, we're not talking about your mom because we're bored and we're nosy, right? Like, we're not asking about your relationship because we want to know all the intimate details or all the rough things that are happening in your marriage. We're not looking at work stress because, we got off track in the mindset session. We're looking for places where your nervous system learned how to survive. So, for example, if you learned early that something being easy or making sure that you're keeping the peace, that's a positive thing. You may really struggle with setting boundaries or saying no. You probably tend to overcommit to things, and then you don't have a lot of energy left for your health goals or for the things that are aligned with your goals or what you're trying to do. Or if you learn somewhere along the way that love came from being useful or productive, that's where you were affirmed, then you were probably over functioning for everyone else. And then you decide that you're just the go-to person. Like, it feels really good. I've built an identity around being dependable, which is also going to interfere with you executing on your health goals. Or if you grew up with a lot of criticism, you may use shame as your main motivator and then wonder why you're in this constant battle with your body and you have all these physical symptoms that are manifesting, right? Or if you learned that your needs were inconvenient, those are my ladies that are like skipping meals and delaying rest and normalizing depletion, basically. And those things are 100% connected to your health.
Yeah, because they affect you physiologically. Like Hello, cortisol, our most common word that we
Yeah.
used last year. These chronic patterns of stress, you hypervigilant, people pleasing, emotional suppressing women, which us type A women are, it's gonna impact our sleep and our cravings and our digestion and inflammation and hormones and energy and all of those things.
Yeah, and then there's a chain. Like your lived experiences shape your nervous system. Then your nervous system shapes your reactions. Your reactions shape your habits, and your habits shape your health. So if a topic comes up that seems unrelated, we're not saying like, "Oh, we're going to go dig this up because this is your fault and we're going to point the finger at it." We're saying that this may be part of a pattern that is currently still playing out. And once you can see the pattern, that's when you can start interrupting it. But if we're avoiding it still, then we can't do anything to change it.
Exactly. So, okay, the intake form, it's a bit of an obstacle. It's long, and a lot of times we'll have, clients be like, "I don't have time for this. It's too
Hmm.
long. It feels like too much," but it's really important.
Yes. And I get it. That's understandable, especially if you are in a season where you're already feeling really overwhelmed, which is a lot of the ladies that come to us. But I want to offer a reframe here because the intake form is not to be seen as like homework for homework's sake. It's not a test. There's no way to fail it or do it wrong. We're not asking you to write your whole life story. It's not asking you to do anything perfectly or over explain yourself. It is just a way for us to get context before the call so that way we can use the session well to your advantage and that we're using our time and attention together to its maximum potential. And if you are someone who maybe struggles with ADHD, for example, or has a hard time focusing on something for a long period of time, or if the long form of it makes your brain kind of short circuit a little bit, or if you're just in a busy season, like you can do it imperfectly. That's okay. Do it the way that you need to do it. Use bullet points. You don't have to write out complete sentences and paragraphs. Use voice to text. That's something that a lot of clients will do is like voice to text it and copy and paste it into the form. Answer what you can, and you can always limit the responses in the areas that maybe feel like too much or put it down for a little bit and come back to it. It's not about it being a performance. It's about just giving us enough information to make sure that we can actually meet you where you are and use our time together to your benefit.
Yeah, because even from a provider perspective, like when I have data going into my appointments, it saves so much time so I can actually dig into the meat of the appointment. And these things like that you're going to dig up they're not separate from your health, which is why this is a part of the program.
Right. Yeah, think about all the forms that you have to fill out before you go to the doctor's office. Like you
Yeah,
have
it's
to
wild.
yeah, check all
Sign your
these
life
things
away.
off. Yeah, and like write in all this information, but it's there for a reason. Like that allows you to not have to spend half of that appointment asking all those questions when you already have the information, and then it gives you more insight into the direction that you're going. So the form is not necessarily like the work. It may feel like work, but it is the doorway into the work. And if we have that doorway, we have a much clearer direction of where we can go.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got the form filled out.
Mhm.
What's the next thing for why we don't want to do this?
Yeah. So a big objection or like for some resistance that we get is, I don't want to go back and dig up the past. We get it. It's fair. It doesn't always feel good. And a lot of women think that mindset coaching means we're going to drag them through every painful thing that ever happened and then, make them relive it. And that is not necessarily what this is. There may be some uncomfortable stories that come up that we are working with you to identify. And we're not digging for trauma just to dig for it. Our goal is not to make you cry. We're not trying to prove that you had a really hard life or that you had something that was really terrible that happened to you. Again, we're looking for patterns that still have a vote in the way that you show up today. Because if something from the past is still shaping your behavior now, it may be over to you logically, in your rational brain, but it's not over in your nervous system. And if we just avoid it and try to repress it and shove it down and say, I don't have to think about that anymore, then you may intellectually understand that you're safe now and it's not something that's currently playing out, but your body may still respond as if you still have to do the thing that's attached to that pattern, aka overperform or people please or avoid conflict or stay in control or try to be perfect all the time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times your mind can move on way quicker than what your body can.
Yes. Yeah. And you don't have to rip open your past to benefit from mindset coaching, but you do have to be willing to look at what's still running the show. And we will pace that. Like sometimes the first session is just noticing language, or it's just identifying a pattern, or it's just getting stories titled so that way we can have a clear direction of where we want to go. It's looking at, where do you keep abandoning yourself? What feels most prevalent for you right now? What's the struggle that's showing up for you? And sometimes it's simply saying, I think this is a thing, but I'm not ready to go all the way there yet. And that's also fine. Like we are going to meet you where you are. And I always tell clients, and my coaches do as well, if there's somewhere that you do not want to go, if you're not comfortable going, I don't want to go there either. Right. But
Yeah.
it is available if and when you do.
Okay, like, and so you're not a therapist and you don't have credential therapist. So why would I want to talk to you about all of this? Like, another
Hmm.
concern, that's like a valid thing that we hear. Like, I don't feel comfortable going that deep with someone I don't know very well, or what are their credentials? They're not therapists. Like, why do I need to be? You guys are way better than therapists, but anyways.
I was going to say 100%. And I get this a lot too in my practice. Clients will say quite often, and I know that you've heard this feedback too, of, oh my gosh, like I've been working with a therapist for 5, 10 years, whatever it is, or I've had so many sessions with a therapist and I've been able to get, more in these 3 sessions than I have in years and years of therapy. Or I get asked all the time, why aren't you a therapist? And to be honest, I do not want to be a therapist. I do not subscribe to the school of thought that therapists are chained to. In all honesty, I do not want to prescribe medication. I do not want to diagnose mental patterns of disease according to the DMS-5. Like I don't believe the same things that are in that school of thought, and I much prefer the coaching hat because it allows us the flexibility and the practical tools to be able, again, to meet you where you are and not have to go in this, very rigid direction,
And we're
essentially.
not bashing therapists.
No,
Like,
not at all. Not at all. I work with a
like,
lot of clients who also work with a therapist, and
yes,
it's a really beautiful team that can
it's just
support you.
different. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And again, like I said, you don't need to talk to us about all of your issues. Mindset coaching is not, sitting down with a stranger and just unloading every painful thing that ever happened to you. If anything, we work more on the practical side of things. Like it's not intended to be a venting session. That's not the goal. The goal is not to force the depth. The goal is to understand, what pattern is currently interfering with what you want to do, the thing that you're struggling to take execution on, or the thing that you're struggling to move with, and then follow through. And those are different.
Yeah, you're a coach. Like, at the end of the day, you're a coach. And we don't, I mean, you have to think about this too. Like, even if you meet a therapist for the first time, like, you don't fully trust that person in the first session. But if I've been to therapy before and I didn't know that person before I went to therapy, like, it's
Yeah.
just not how it works.
Yeah. And trust is built. And I think it's a fair preconceived notion coming into any situation where someone's asking you personal information. But a lot of women come into the first session very guarded, and that's totally normal. And again, that's your nervous system doing its job. But if you had an experience where vulnerability was not safe and you have been judged or dismissed or shamed or misunderstood before, or a lot of women have had the experience where their words have been used against them, of course you're not going to, walk into the first call and say, here's my entire life story. Like, what do you think? And you shouldn't. You're allowed to pace yourself, but pacing and avoiding are also not the same thing. And sometimes I don't feel comfortable going that deep can mean I need more trust before I share that. And that is completely fine. That is our job, is to create a safe container where you feel like you have a level of trust that you can divulge what feels most present for you. And sometimes it means I know that there's something here and I don't want to look at it. And that's also human and that's also okay. But if the thing that you don't want to look at is the same thing that's driving your emotional eating or people pleasing tendencies or resentment or shame or overworking, then it's probably worth approaching slowly and not forcefully, again, slowly. And I also would say this is a scenario in which you have everything to gain and not a lot to lose. If you don't ever want to talk to us again after those 3 sessions, you don't have to. That's rarely ever the case. More often than not, people want to continue doing this work. But if that is something that doesn't resonate with you, or that you have a fear around that, if you don't want to go there after at any point, then that again is your option. We're not going to force anything.
Yeah. And I think this is just like a misunderstanding of the purpose of what it's for. Like a lot of clients will be like, well, this isn't directly related to my food and exercise and hormones, but it is, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And here's why. Because if every night you are stress eating because you feel unseen at home, we don't need to talk about all your issues. We need to talk about the one that's affecting you the most right now. I don't feel seen, or I don't ask for what I need, or, I eat to get comfort because I don't know how to receive comfort anywhere else. And that's really relevant. So if you keep skipping workouts, for example, because you're exhausted, because you're saying yes to everyone else, we don't need to unpack your entire childhood in the session. We're going to look at, why do you feel guilty choosing yourself? Why are you afraid, that something will happen if you disappoint somebody? What is the fear there? Where did you learn that your needs are not as important as other people's? That's mindset coaching, right? We're not diagnosing you. We're not trying to treat your trauma necessarily, and we're not replacing therapy. We are coaching the patterns that are showing up in your journey. And that may involve the past if the past is still influencing the present. But the focus is always, how is it showing up for you? What is feeling most present for you now? And what do we do with it? And a lot of times, more often than not, that is rooted in past lived experiences. That's entirely how the body works. We
Yeah.
cannot think about anything. Like, we can't understand where we're going to go if we can't understand where we've been.
Well, exactly. And we're not like asking you to come and dig up all this stuff. Like we're asking you to come and figure out the things that are keeping you stuck and why you have been stuck. Because women don't come to us because they haven't tried things. Like
Right.
we're a lot of times like, oh, this is the last thing I'm ever going to try. So
Mhm.
that's what you're there for, to figure out why. Like, like a lot of people think, well, it's my hormones and all this stuff. And yeah, that stuff matters, but there's also like a lot of thought patterns behind why you're in the situation that you're in.
Yeah, and if it was as easy to see, these things that I'm tying threads to right now seem really easy because I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've been doing a lot of it. So I can clearly see those threads, which is why we have very qualified practitioners that are doing this work with you. If it was easy for you to tie your emotional eating with a pattern of what happened in your childhood, then you would address that. But a lot of
Right.
times that's not accessible to most people. And that is something that is buried in the nervous system and in the body. And so when we are quote unquote digging, we are tying these threads and trying to make connections to create more self awareness for you. So you don't have to share absolutely everything. Again, share what feels relevant, and it's our job to investigate from there. Come with what feels present, come with what feels safe enough, come in with the patterns that you already are aware of that are getting in the way. And that could simply be, I'm overwhelmed, or I'm snacking too much at night, or I can't stay consistent when I work on this on my own, or I'm always, putting myself last. I don't know how to put myself first, or I am really, really not nice to myself with the way that I talk to myself. And that can be enough. Like, you don't have to feel like you have to tie these threads yourself or come in super vulnerably. That is our work to be able to help you connect those. And the only thing that we would ask for is that you are willing to be honest at the level that you are open to accessing, because most breakthroughs happen once a client does realize, like, oh, I'm not being pushed, I'm being guided. Like, we're asking a lot of questions, and these we're identifying language patterns that you yourself are using. And it's not about just spilling everything immediately. Like, at the end of the day, the building enough safety to be able to get to a place where you can see your own truth, that's the goal.
Yeah. So we've touched on this like a little bit, but like you guys are not trying to replace a therapist because that is an objection that you hear as well.
Mhm. Yeah, and that makes sense. Or people will say, like, I've already had a therapist in the past, like, I don't want to have to, like, start all over again and go into the stuff that I've already talked to about with my therapist, and that makes sense. Again, mindset coaching is not the same as therapy. We're not replacing therapy, we're not diagnosing or treating mental health disorders. Therapy and mindset coaching coexist really beautifully, actually. And therapy often helps you process and understand and heal, and mindset coaching is more focused on pattern recognition and practical application. So we're looking at, how is the belief showing up in your food choices? How is this story that you are attached to in some way in your body affecting your sleep now? How is people pleasing behaviors impacting your stress levels and your cortisol? How is your perfectionism making you inconsistent in what you're trying to achieve, right? It's, how is your body image impacting your ability to take care of yourself? Like, a lot of women have done years of therapy and still struggle to apply what they know to their daily actions, to their daily behavior, and that's why coaching is different.
Yeah, so it's not like starting over, it's more of like connecting the dots between what you already know and kind of what you're doing day to day.
Yes. And therapy can also be really beautiful for integration in between
Yeah.
sessions. Like, we often have integration tools that we give to clients for them to do work in between sessions. And have had a lot of clients who take those to their therapist and say, like, hey, this is what I'm working on. And that's been really helpful. And I've got really great feedback from therapists regarding that as well. So we're not asking you to abandon what has helped you. We're just adding another layer.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing is I don't want to do this woo-woo mindset stuff, and this is probably where I would have lied. This would be me. But
Yes.
I have done the mindset stuff and it's super beneficial. I've been through the training of it too, but like yeah.
Yeah. And again, that's fair. I also don't want, like, I hate, like, vague fluffy coaching. Like, this is not a scenario where we're just going to tell you to think positive or, like, manifest your desires or,
Yeah.
bypass your stress and, like, what's coming through to you. This is nervous system, behavior, identity, language, and pattern recognition. Like, we are getting you to understand that you have most likely been disconnected from your body, and we need to get well acquainted with her again. When you say things like, I always fail, your brain is going to look for evidence every time you fail and be like, see, I was
Told you.
right.
Yeah.
When you say, I don't have time, your brain is going to stop scanning for opportunities for time to do the things that you need to do for you. When you say things like, oh, I have to do it right all the time, or like this perfectionism idea, your nervous system is going to treat anything that interrupts the current status quo, AKA checking the boxes on all your to-do list, as a threat, meaning anything that's getting in the way of that, your self-care, is going to be a threat to that. And that's not woo, that's how attention, behavior, and self-protection work. And the more that those things are acting against you, not working in your favor, you're also disrupting the trust that you have between your brain and your body, right? Like, blunting the access that we have to our intuition, and that chips away at that self-trust, and that's where all that self-doubt is rooted. So then when you tell yourself that you can do this big thing, that you can make these changes, that you can follow through, that's all that self-doubt's coming to the table and saying, no, you can't. Look at all the stuff that you said that we've proved correct. Look at all these
Yeah.
stories.
And then that's
Yeah.
affecting your sleep and your blood sugar and your cravings and hormones and digestion and all of that stuff.
Yes. Your story creates a state. And the state that you are in influences your behavior, and the behavior is going to impact your health. And it becomes this, like, self fulfilling cycle. That's another chain.
So this would also be me. I'm super self-motivated.
Hmm.
I've got this. I
Yeah.
don't
You
need
don't,
to do this.
you don't need any additional mindset help.
Right.
And A lot of women do got this. I get it. Like you're successful, you run big teams, you raise the kids, you manage households, you hit all your deadlines, you hold a lot. But being self motivated does not mean that you do not have your own set of mindset patterns. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and I will say oftentimes, the most successful women have the deepest patterns because those patterns have been rewarded. That's part of the reason why you've been able to get to where you are. Because guess what? Over functioning is really praised and gets rewarded. Like perfectionism gets rewarded, it's very validated. Being dependable, the go to all the time, you get very affirmed for that. Not needing help or being able to receive support, that's really great for other people that are in your environment.
Right.
Yeah, like pushing through hard shit all the time, that gets really positively affirmed and validated. So until your body starts charging interest, when someone says, I have a solid mindset because I'm successful, I want to ask, okay, where are you successful? Because you can be successful at work and still abandon yourself at home. Like you can be super disciplined in your career and still use food to cope at night because you're so stressed. You can be highly motivated and still be absolutely terrified to take rest and slow down. And you can be really productive and be sitting in survival mode, sis. So, yes, you can be extremely successful. And this is coming from somebody that was operating in those same patterns of just like pushing and driving, and I was winning, and a lot of people were clapping for me. But on the inside, it didn't feel so good. And I'd be willing to bet that you are here for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we get it. A lot of you don't need motivation,
Yeah.
but
We're
you
not
do
we're
need to,
not here to give it to you.
but you do need to understand why that motivation that you have hasn't been enough to get you where you want to go as far as your health and body composition goes.
Yeah, like we're this is not always something where, we're telling you that you lack drive. Like we can recognize that you have motivation, but if you are tired of using that motivation and that drive and pushing as your only tool, then this could be an alternative perspective to be able to see. And that doesn't mean that you have to lose that, because that's another fear that a lot of women aren't even willing to address because that requires vulnerability in of itself. But if there's a lot tied up in that identity, then there is going to be some fear and resistance to not being able to perform that way anymore. But we also have to look at what's the cost of doing that and for how long.
So, what about the woman? This one kind of cracks me up because I don't really struggle with anything. I don't know why you signed up for our program if you don't struggle with anything. But
Yeah, we have heard this of like, I don't really have any problems. I don't, and I'm like, okay,
which
let's
I
get.
get, yeah. But if you have health problems, then there's something causing those health problems.
Yeah, yeah. So then in that situation, we're going to get curious, because if you don't really struggle with anything, that is awesome. But if you're in this program, a struggle brought you here, whether it is,
Right.
just weight or fatigue or inflammation or your hormones feel off or cravings or consistency, whatever it is. But, you're for some reason, you're telling yourself, or you're being given feedback that your body is not responding to the things that you're trying to do. So the question is not, do I have issues? The better question is, what patterns keep creating the same outcome? And you don't need to have some big traumatic life struggle to benefit from mindset coaching, but you do need to be willing to look at what's been normalized for yourself, because women sometimes don't call things a struggle, right? Or in comparison to what's been going on, things could feel really good right now. Like often women don't call it a struggle, they just call it life. Like we just call it
Yeah.
being busy, or it's like, well, this is just how it is to be a mom, or I'm just type A, or I just have really high standards. Like they just call it being how they are. But if how I am keeps costing me my health in some way, then it's worth investigating that exchange.
Yeah. Because you're just depleted.
Yeah, the egg is not in your favor.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what about those that don't want to be vulnerable?
Yeah. And I get it, because I don't like being vulnerable either. It's taken a lot of practice and a lot of work for me to feel safe being vulnerable. And vulnerability can feel like a weakness. But if vulnerability feels dangerous, then that's probably part of the pattern. And I
Yeah.
say probably intentionally, and you can take out the probably, because that is the pattern.
Yeah.
Being unable to be honest about what is happening internally does not make you strong, mama. Like, it keeps you isolated, it makes you guarded, it makes you hard to support because you're going to have a really hard time receiving help in that way or ever feeling like you are able to ask for it. And if you can't be vulnerable anywhere, then your nervous system is carrying everything alone. And that is 100% going to affect your health.
Yeah. I mean, this is where stage 3 adrenal fatigue comes in. Like you've been carrying all this stress for years and then you wonder why like your body is so stuck and can't lose weight.
Yeah, and inflamed as hell.
Yeah.
Like that's where we see like all these crazy levels of chronic inflammation. And again, you don't have to come into the session and dump everything when we're talking about vulnerability. You don't have to cry. You don't have to, certainly don't perform vulnerability. We don't want that. It's like all we're asking is that you're willing to be honest because everything that moves you forward is going to require some level of discomfort. And that's across the board. Like changing your nutrition is uncomfortable. Resistance training is uncomfortable. Setting boundaries with people is uncomfortable. And looking at patterns is uncomfortable. And if you can say, ask yourself, is the discomfort moving me toward the life that I want, or is it keeping me in the one that I'm complaining about right now? And I'd be willing, like there's going to be discomfort either way. So it's
Yeah.
like again, it goes back to like choosing your heart. Like which discomfort are you choosing? And I would say that in my personal experience, every time that I have willingly chosen the discomfort that takes me in the direction that I want to go, it's always been worth it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's make this practical. If you and I are sitting down in a mindset session, what actually
Mhm.
happens here?
Yeah. So it's a working session. I'm not lecturing you. I'm not giving you generic advice. It's definitely not a motivational pep talk. Like, we are going to take something real that you're struggling with and we're going to work through it together. And that might be, a pattern of self sabotage or how you talk to your body or a belief about your worth. Or it could be a relationship dynamic because our environment is really important, right? Or like a fear of failure, and we will slow it down, right? We are going to look at the language that you use to describe yourself in those scenarios and those lived experiences, and we're going to look at the pattern that arrives there. And we look at it and where it came from, and so that way we can understand the relevance that it's holding in present day, right? And then we can build a more useful way forward by using that as a tool and a strategy. So what we're doing is we're leaving you with more awareness to be able to take that practical next step. I've said this before, I'm pretty sure on this podcast, but I believe that our mindset, which is the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves, is crafted through our lived experiences that create a lens that we view ourselves through in our own narrative. And when we build that lens from lived experiences that our nervous system flags, in all fairness, in an effort to keep us safe, they're often negative ones because it's things that we want to avoid happening again or that we're trying to control or prevent from happening. And in that way, we're still living out that response that happened in the original trigger. And the only way that we can understand that fully and choose something different is to be able to slow it down, create some space and clarity, and identify how we're describing ourself in that narrative, and then be open to an alternative perspective. And if we can, again, we can't change the past, but if we can identify how we see ourselves in the past, then we get to choose something different moving forward.
Yeah. And all those things are like what support the rest of the program and working with us. Like once women see the pattern, they can interrupt it a lot faster and get unstuck.
Yeah, and it's not that you're never going to struggle again. I want to be clear
No.
about that. The win is that you can recognize the pattern before it runs your life for another 6 months. We're essentially just collapsing timelines. We're making things more accessible to you so that you can use the tools and move forward and stop staying stuck and afraid.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that is why like we made this a must in our program. Like it's why we included it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big differentiator because most women have already tried meal plans and workouts and supplements and the tracking and, the detoxes and the boot camps and all the things. And, this is usually not their first rodeo.
No.
We're not choosing this out the gate. Same as like how deep we go in the program when it comes to the type of labs that we're running and the level of accountability and lifestyle habits that we're addressing with the health coaches, right? Like all of it is intertwined. And if knowing what to do were enough, like we said, then we would already be doing it. We would already be where we want to be. And so the missing layer is often all the areas in which we are abandoning ourselves or really struggling with structure or, finding ways to try to feel safe and aren't even aware that that's what we're doing. And this is also why, after you do programs, it's like, why do I gain the weight after I do another program? Why do I gain it back? Well, that's why we're addressing it through the mindset lens, along with everything else. It's, we're trying to amplify and support the results that you're going to get in the program. And we're also helping you to become a woman that's going to be able to sustain those results after that container is done.
Yeah. So if you're one of the like 600 women we're working with right now, that's in our program, and you haven't done your mindset coaching, hopefully this helps clarify why you need it. It's not therapy. It's not woo. It's not forced vulnerability. Like it's not just digging up and through your past. Like it's a really valuable resource.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is it's already included. Like it's there for you. It is a resource. It's a place to understand things that have traditionally kept you stuck, and you don't need to come in with perfect answers. Like just come in willing to be honest and come in willing to access parts of you that maybe have felt a little inaccessible in the past so that way we can help you. And I would ask, what pattern keeps showing up in your health journey that you keep trying to solve with more discipline or more pushing or more resistance? Because that pattern is probably where your work is, and we can help you
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. So if you're working with us, hopefully this was helpful. If you're not,
Yes.
we hope that maybe we do get to work with you one day. But like, review, share as always, and we will see you next time.
Yes. And if you are in the program and you know someone else in the program that's on the fence or is like, I don't know, I've been like putting off their mindset sessions or putting off filling out their onboarding form, send this to her.
See you next time, ladies.
See you next time.